Hey, what's up guys, it's Aladin. Now this is going to be my full complete breakdown of the official teaser trailer of Spider-Man No Way Home. There's just so much to unpack from this trailer, from all the little Easter eggs to the teasers. I'll try my best to cover as much as I can, but if I miss anything, just let me know in the comment section. I don't want to make this intro too long, so hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. I'll have way more Spider-Man videos regarding updates and breakdowns and etc. leading up to the official release of the film, so definitely make sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss out on anything. But enough of all that, let's get into the breakdown. Now the trailer starts off with MJ and Peter laying on the rooftop. This actually reminds me a lot of the first original Spider-Man 3 where we saw Peter and MJ laying down on the web staring at the stars. This is also seen a few times in the comics, so it's no surprise to see it replicated here in No Way Home. We eventually learn and find out that this is the aftermath of Peter's identity being revealed to the public, but it does look like at this point that he's managed to clear his name despite everyone knowing his true identity. We see MJ reading a newspaper from the New York Post, which is not the Daily Bugle as we learned that in the MCU. It was actually Alex Jones' SQ show rather than the publication. However, on the front cover of the newspaper, it reads Peter Parker and his Spider Minions. It's kind of odd seeing how the media is still bashing his name, even though he literally saved the city as well as the universe. It's like, come on now, give him a break. MJ reads one of the passages out of the New York Post about how some suggest that Peter's powers include the ability to hypnotize females. And I mean, that's not a bad... Okay, I'm just kidding. I thought that was kind of funny. But you could tell from Peter's voice that he wasn't too fond of that joke. However, I also saw this part as a foreshadowing for later in the film. For instance, we see the big reveal in the trailer where Peter asks Dr. Strange to pretty much hypnotize the entire world in hopes of them forgetting that he's Spider-Man. Peter would then tell MJ how he just wants to stay on the rooftop forever. It then transitions where we see him and MJ swinging through the streets of New York from the aftermath of the post-credits scene from Far From Home. Peter's face is literally blown up all over Times Square with the mask showing half of his face. We later see a shot in which people swarm all over him at a subway entrance. By the looks of this location, it most likely looks like this is where the film will first take place. And if you look closely at the street sign, it says West 33rd Street, which according to Google Maps is actually the opposite side of Pennsylvania Station, which is where you see Peter during the post-credits in Far From Home. Now, if everything goes according to plan, we'll see the opening of the film be similar to John Wick 3's opening, where we see Peter being chased across New York. However, as all this news is roaring around the world on the internet, we see Peter at the police station trying to prove his innocence by telling the authorities that it was actually the drones that had killed Mysterio. What's funny about all this is the fact that he's being put in handcuffs, and honestly, if he wanted to break out of them, he could have easily done it, but I guess he left them on just for the sake of appearance and power for the authorities to have. However, this scene does remind me a lot of Man of Steel, where we saw Superman being interrogated and having cuffs on. He could have easily snapped that shit off of him in seconds, but he didn't. Later on, we see some guy slam down some papers on the table, and in a quick split second, it does look a lot like Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, from the appearance of his clothing such as his shirt and tie. Now, a few seconds later, we see MJ and Peter reading from their phones as well as talking to one another. Most likely, they're reading headlines and reports about Peter's identity being revealed to the public. It's quite wild to think about how the news and the media have dramatically affected Peter in a bad way, which is essentially why he said earlier that he would love to stay on the rooftop forever if he could. Now, this clearly does set the motion for his next actions in the trailer when he does go and see Dr. Strange. Also, if you noticed on top of MJ's head while she was laying in bed, you'll see sketches of people's heads hanging down above her bed. She actually drew a lot of these sketches back in Spider-Man Homecoming when she was in detention. I like that they're adding little details like this in the trailer. As he walks past the crowd, we see someone with a sign that says Devil in Disguise. Perhaps this might be a sign of Mephisto's appearance in the film. Can't really say because it doesn't confirm much. However, next scene we see is Peter, Ned, MJ, and perhaps Flash Thompson all together heading to school. Can't really confirm that it's Flash Thompson just because from this angle it's very awkward to pinpoint a proper facial recognition. We then get a shot of MJ and Peter on top of a bridge in New York getting chased by helicopters. It then jumps to Peter walking in the halls of his school, which is quite very bold of him to do. Like, why in the hell would you go back there if you know that everyone knows your true identity now? We then drop to a scene where we see Peter and Aunt May sitting in their apartment where it looks like someone ends up walking in on them, basically startling them. It's too hard to say who it might be exactly, but my theory is that it could possibly be Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield that they encounter here. We also hear Peter in the background saying, "This isn't about me, it's hurting a lot of people." This reminds me of Batman a lot, where he said that he wears the mask so he could protect those around him. I'm getting the vibe that this is slightly coming from the Civil War comic where Peter actually reveals his identity to the world thanks to Tony Stark. In order to show everyone that the Superhuman Registration Act was something to fight for and were doing, which is why Peter caved in. However, he would later change his mind in the comic, and this eventually led to Aunt May getting shot, which plays into the One More Day storyline. However, you get the point. Peter revealing his true identity to the world caused events which led to close family members of his getting killed. I don't think that will happen in No Way Home, but you never know nowadays with Marvel. They could easily just throw a huge curveball at you and surprise you at the end. We then see Ned and Aunt May getting questioned by the police. Throughout the trailer, we see a variety of seasons being played out, so that's one thing that we can confirm in the film, that there will be a span of seasons. For example, we see Peter in a classroom that has Halloween decorations hanging up, and then later we see MJ where she has Christmas lights hanging up in her room. We also know that Tom Holland was spotted in a snowy setting, so that should also back up the idea that the film will be spread out in seasons. My guess is that this film will span on a 6-month period from Far From Home. What I also found funny was that when Peter was looking at the Halloween lights, he was actually looking at little figures of wizards, which gave him the idea to go visit Dr. Strange, which is what you see in the next scene. Peter then heads to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where we see everything covered in snow, almost making you wonder what the hell Strange was doing in there. I guess my man was experimenting new spells. All jokes. Most likely, this is due to Bruce Banner blowing up a big hole in the roof during the opening of Infinity War. Strange was most likely gone by the snap of Thanos at this time, which is what might be the reason for why they haven't fixed the hole in the ceiling yet. However, this does show that the seasons at the time were constantly changing. I think it's also quite funny how you see someone at the bottom left shoveling. Strange, you have all these powers, why not just defrost everything, man? Come on now. You could easily just cast a spell to get rid of all that snow. However, we then see Peter and Strange exchange some words to each other. Peter continues to address Strange as Sir, which then Strange tells him, I think we're past that, you can stop calling me Sir. Peter then calls him by his first name, Steven, and I just find that hella funny for the first time watching it. This also brings up the time when they first met back in Infinity War, where Peter says, oh, we're using our made-up names? I guess it was just a little funny nod to their last conversation together. Looking at Strange's mug, it says forsake, which makes me think that Strange is thinking those exact words seeing Peter at his front doorsteps. Just a little fun poking at him, I guess. However, we then hear Peter ask Strange if he can cast a spell where everyone who had knowledge of his true identity could forget it completely, which was actually the makings of Mysterio when he revealed it to everyone that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. As I mentioned earlier with the comic book storyline One More Day, it showcased Peter going to Strange to ask him if he can help save Aunt May. At the time, Strange was living in a broken down and boarded up sanctum, but he did help Peter by traveling to multiple different timelines in hope of finding someone who could help save Aunt May. Unfortunately, there was just no luck, which then led Peter to turn to Mephisto for help. This whole idea of time travel through timelines could actually be seen in this trailer, as Peter is asking if he can go back in time and fix it. We then see Strange levitating and almost looks like the same position that he did similar to Infinity War. From the looks of it though, Strange's spell doesn't work, causing him to attempt a different spell. We would also learn this in Endgame, that all this time traveling would actually cause altercations in the timeline, which would affect the reality of them all. This would eventually create a branched reality in the comics. Strange wasn't able to help Peter as much in the comics, nor was anyone else, which is what led Peter to make a deal with Mephisto. While making the deal with Mephisto, Peter's only request was that he wanted to remove everyone's knowledge of him being Spider-Man and for people to stop coming after him. However, Mephisto's only wish or desire in this case was for that Peter and MJ to never get married. Now fast forward to this film, we see Strange as the one casting the spell and not Mephisto. I highly doubt that Mephisto will be in the film, just because Strange is the one casting the spell, so it would make no sense for Mephisto to be in here. But don't think that Mephisto won't make an appearance in future Marvel films. Now while in this scene, we hear Peter explaining to Strange how having his help would tremendously help him out since Mysterio did reveal to everyone his true identity. It then jumps into a scene where a mob of folks are surrounding MJ and Peter by a subway entrance. We then hear Wong, who tells Strange to not cast a spell because he thinks it's too dangerous. Strange looks at him and tells him that he won't, but in reality he does, and he gives Peter a little sneaky wink letting him know that he's gonna help him out. We also see Wong with his bags leaving, and what we know so far from the Shang-Chi trailers, this might be him heading over there to fight the Abomination. We then see Strange using one of Peter's hairs to cast a spell, which is something that he actually needs if he wants to tie the spell to someone or something. He did the same thing back in Thor Ragnarok, where he plucked one of Thor's hairs so he could cast a spell to send him and his brother Loki to go see Odin. We then see Peter interrupting Strange Strange while he's doing the spell, which is actually what causes the spell to go bad. Peter tells Dr. Strange how he doesn't want MJ, Ned, and Aunt May to forget who he really is. Now all this talking ends up causing Dr. Strange to lose concentration, which ends up leading him to mess up on the overall spell. Now at this point, I do feel like this would be the best time to introduce Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man in the film. It would only make sense just because Dr. Strange and Peter did open up the timeline now. However, from the looks of it, the spell worked. Sorta. We then see this rainbow galactic bridge of some sort, almost resembling the Bifrost in Asgard. My guess is, this was the access that gave all the villains across the multiverse the ability to come into the MCU. Now there are several villains in this trailer that I spotted, and I guess from the looks of it, we can say that it's a Sinister Six. Sony was quite smart here by not showcasing all the villains right away. They gave enough information and teasers to let us fans guess who will be in the film. So props to you, Sony, for doing that. But back to the villains. The first big reveal was Dr. Octopus, who will be played again by Alfred Molina. You hear him at the end of the trailer saying, "Hello, Peter," which quickly got most, if not all, fans excited to see back. Now, a thing about Molina is that he can't keep his mouth shut when it comes to spoilers. This man has essentially spoiled the whole film by spoiling the whole plot of the film. At this point, you could say that he took the mantle of spoilers from Tom Holland. However, according to Molina, he says that we saw an alternate version of his character at the end of Spider-Man 2, and that his character was actually being pulled across the multiverse through a portal. Now, if you go back to the film of Spider-Man 2, you'll actually notice that he does die from drowning in a miniature sun in the Hudson River. However, it's possible that when it all got destroyed and collapsed, that it dragged his body across. I guess the only way we'll find out is when the film comes out. We then see William Dafoe's Green Goblin tease when he rolls a pumpkin bomb towards the screen. It's been said that he's gonna be the one that's gonna be forming the Sinister Six in the film. We then see electrical sparks in the background, which can be a clear indication that this is Jamie Foxx reprising his role as Electro. Now, it is rumored that his costume will be different from the ending of Amazing Spider-Man. We then see a pile of sand rising up in the trailer, which could be a clear indication that this is Sandman. Now, there are rumors and leaks going around about what Strange does and how he handles the villains in this film. If you don't want to hear this, either skip ahead or click the timestamp so you guys can avoid this part. So, you've been warned now. But it's said that Strange will apparently imprison the villains since they're causing mayhem and chaos in New York. As he puts them away, he tries to figure out a way how to send them back to what I'm guessing is their appropriate universes. This is when William Dafoe's Norman Osborn shows up, and he asks the villains of Sinister Six about their lives, and they all say the last thing that they remember or saw was Spider-Man. Osborn, unable to release them due to the powerful magic surrounding them, he heads to Peter and asks him for help. He tells Peter how the characters will die if they return back home, and that the Peter from their world was also there when they passed away. This obviously causes Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man to feel some sort of guilt. He could be potentially sending them back to their deaths, and that's definitely something that Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man doesn't want. This then leads Peter to break into Dr. Strange's prison and then steal a magical cube which is holding them in. In this trailer, we see what supposedly looks like Strange chasing Peter across New York in the mirror dimension. This is where you see the two of them chasing one another, falling into oblivion of nowhere, almost representing that idea of the film Inception. This effect is seen in a variety of films, but you actually see this effect in the first Doctor Strange film. We then see a clip where Doctor Strange is chasing Peter on a train, as well as throwing trains at him. Like, bro, chill for a second. However, Strange is doing all this so he can stop Peter from breaking the multiverse. Doctor Strange would eventually catch up to Peter, where he then pushes Peter's astral projection out of his body, which is something that we've seen before in previous Marvel films, such as the Ancient One doing it to Hulk as well as Doctor Strange. Now, as a first impression, this film has got me so pumped, man. Everything in this trailer was just spot on perfect. The cinematography, the acting, the music, the sounds, the environment, the characters, just everything. Everything flowed well, honestly. There was enough information to break down, but then again, we still didn't get everything that No Way Home had to offer. For example, we still didn't see all the Sinister Six villains. Yeah, we saw little teasers of their abilities or gadgets, but that was about it. We also didn't see Tobey's or Andrew's Spider-Man. I'm hoping that Sony does release another trailer where they hopefully introduce those versions of Spider-Man. Let's just cross our fingers and hope they do. But now we do know that this film will be coming out in December 17, and December just couldn't come any sooner. However, let me know in the comments section what you guys thought about this first trailer. What was your favorite part about the trailer? Leave all your comments in the comment section below. I'll have way more Spider-Man content for you guys, so any news, leaks, and etc. I'll cover it for you guys as soon as I can. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys for this video. I just want to say thank you all for watching, and if you haven't already, hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't by now. Also, hit that notification notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. If you don't mind, share the video if you thought it was good and want others to see it. Thank you all once more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone. See ya.